and get started. Hello everyone, and welcome to the third episode of Sarah's Science-Based Sustainability Secrets. I am so glad to have you all here. I will start out by telling you a little bit about myself. I am interning with CSU Extension this summer, and my major is ecosystem science and sustainability. So I have a passion for sustainability and learning, so I'm excited to be doing the third episode of this mini-series. So CSU Extension is the outreach branch of Colorado State University, and we have an office in almost every county in Colorado, and our job is to provide research-based information to the community. Content from this presentation is from CSU Extension's fact sheets, and the sources will be cited in the comments below. So before I get started, I want to show everyone where I'm filming today because the location has changed. So I am at the beautiful Silo Park, and I'll move slowly to give you a 360 of where I am. And if I flip the camera, so this is in Greenwood Village, and the Colorado Master Gardeners manage the demonstration gardens here at Silo. And I'll take us through a walk in the garden. And so all the produce grown here is actually donated to local food banks. And we appreciate our partnership with the City of Greenwood Village to manage the demonstration gardens that provide education and outreach to our local community and produce for those that need it. And this is a perfect place for me to be filming this episode because there is a composting bin right there. And I will be showing this composting bin off. I'm just going to talk about composting a little bit before I do. So, to get started, what is composting? Composting is a form of waste disposal where organic waste decomposes naturally, allowing you to recycle nutrients back into the yard, and it saves landfill space. And so the final compost product is called humus, and it's full of good nutrients and can be used to help plants grow and amend poor soil and aid in water retention. So composting is a way to reduce the volume of organic wastes and return them to the soil to benefit your growing plants. So it's a great way to recycle and a great way to enrich your garden. And it helps water and air enter your soil by creating more space. And so compost mainly serves to convert plant material into a usable soil amendment. So compost holds moisture like a sponge, and it releases nutrients slowly. It also increases the activity of earthworms and other natural organisms that are beneficial to plant growth. But an important thing to keep in mind is that compost is a soil amendment, not a fertilizer. So what can you compost? Plants lose between 50 and 75% of their volume in composting, so a lot of plant material can be processed effectively. I'll flip the camera around so you can see what's going on in this composting bin. And I'll tell you that any plant residue can be composted, including weeds, lawn clippings, plants, leafy prunings and clippings, vegetable tops and vines, sawdust, and non-glossy newsprint. But woody material requires extra composting time. So in addition to yard waste, many people compost their kitchen wastes, such as vegetable scraps, coffee grounds, and eggshells. Animal wastes like meat, bones, grease, whole eggs, and dairy products are not recommended for composting because they can leave odors and attract rodents, so it's not really the best idea for that. But there are some animal products that you can use as organic sources of nitrogen that include blood, steamed bone meal, and livestock manures from plant-eating animals like cows, sheep, rabbits, and chickens. And so a variety of materials can be composted, but most gardeners compost a lot of the yard material waste that they collect. And it's also inadvisable to compost diseased plants, insect-infested plants, and weeds loaded with seeds, as this can cause problems in your garden later. So, how do you get started? Composting sounds very technical, but you can think about it simply. The types of materials that you can compost have been split into groups, green and brown. Green materials include the green leafy plants like weeds, grass clippings, vegetable tops, and flower clippings. And the brown materials include fall leaves, straw, sawdust, wood chips, and shredded newspapers. And according to a Tagawa garden video, which I will link below because they have really great tips, if you want to speed up the composition, you want the pieces in your compost pile to be small. So you could run them under a lawnmower or grab some clippers and break the pieces up into 2-inch pieces, because it's harder for the microorganisms to move on the big pieces and break them down, similar to how humans take small bites when we eat. We can't put the whole thing in our mouth. So to make traditional compost, you should alternate different types of shredded plant materials in 6 to 8-inch layers. And layering helps you achieve the correct nitrogen balance. So grass clippings can be composted, but it's best to mulch them and leave them on your grass, and this can recycle nutrients back that way. And we will be talking about mulching in the next episode, so that's for next week. And grass mats easily, so this prevents water from getting into your compost, and it'll overpack, and it might lead to obnoxious odors. So traditional composting includes soil as one of the layers, and you can incorporate soil from the pulled up weeds or the uprooted vegetables and your flower plants. But you don't want to add too large of an amount of soil, because this can make your compost heavy and less efficient, and this can suffocate the microorganisms that are in your compost. And you want to add water to your compost every few layers of material, and so you can use water from your fish tanks, from your rinsed vegetables, or anywhere that you have some extra water. And moisture and oxygen are essential to microbial activity. So in a region with limited rainfall, such as Colorado, even though it looks like it might rain today, you should add moisture regularly to maintain composting. Because if parts of your composting dry out, then many of the microorganisms in the dry areas will die. So if the plant materials are dry and no green material is available, you can add a small quantity of blood meal or commercial nitrogen fertilizer free of weed killers. Brown materials composted alone require supplemental nitrogen to feed the decomposing bacteria. So you can add 1/4 to 1/2 cup of nitrogen fertilizer per bushel, which is about 35 gallons of brown material. Now, let's talk about what to put your green and brown material in. So a minimum volume of material is required to build up the heat for the efficient composting. And so your compost pile should be warm because the microorganisms like to thrive in warm conditions. So when it's hot, probably about over 100 degrees, that means that your compost is happy, healthy, and it's cooking well. So the volume is generally around 36 by 36 by 36 inches, sometimes with a gate at the bottom to open up. And you can see that this compost pile has exactly that. So you can see this compost pile is interesting because it's broken up into 3 sections. And I was talking to the master gardeners yesterday, and they said that they move the compost from each pile when it's ready to be moved. So you can see that there's a gate at the bottom, and it makes it easy to reach the good compost at the bottom. So it allows you to open it at any time. And let me put the camera back. So well-insulated wood or plastic structures can be smaller and still hold enough heat to compost well. So waste should heat up within 2 days if you put the compost together correctly. And other options you can have are a drum or plastic or wooden boxes for composting. So a drum is above the ground, and it rotates and keeps turning for you. It does that for you. But if you're using a box like the one here at this garden, you will need a compost aerator or a pitchfork to mix your compost up. Now, where do you compost? Well, as you can see, this composting bin is right next to the garden, so the accessibility is really great here, and it makes it easy for the distribution of the compost and to put more material in easier. So you want to choose a place that's out of the way, but also convenient for you to move plant materials around your yard. And you can see it's already kind of shady today, but there is a big tree here that is keeping the shade on this compost bin. And partial shade avoids baking and drying in the summer, and a little bit of sun provides some solar heat to get the compost action started. So also, a site protected from drying winds prevents too much moisture loss. And if you don't want your compost too visible and you want to continue the normal activities in your backyard, you can find a place where it can be hidden but still successful. So here's a quick summary. You want to get a tub, put a little bit of soil on the bottom to get started, add food waste and yard waste as a green and brown mixture, and over a few months you will see a beautiful compost on the bottom and a good growth will get started. There are many types of composting which can also be simple, including vermicomposting, and that uses worms. And I spoke to a few master gardeners yesterday at this garden, and then they said that they incorporate this in their everyday lives too. And I will link below on how to get started with this, and this is a great project for the whole family to get excited about. So also, a few days ago, I spoke to a member of the community in Lone Tree Composting, and he said that composting is more of a lifestyle, not just a one-time thing, because once we reevaluate the way we look at garbage and waste and the perception of it, we will learn that composting is not very difficult. And I will link some videos and some how-to documents in the comments on how to get started. And you can also organize your life to the size of bin that you need. So if you cook a lot, for example, you can have a bigger bin. But you can see the life cycle in real time, and this is perfect for kids to watch and learn about. And this will create a quality soil for your plants. And also you should check with your county. As for example, Denver offers free composting, and you should contact me with any questions and call your local extension office for more information. And thank you all for coming, and I'll talk to you next week about mulching, and I'll stay on for a few minutes, answer any questions anyone might have about composting. But if you don't have any questions right now and something comes up later, just comment on the video and I will respond to you there. And I can show Silo Park one more time because you can see there's some people looking at the garden, and it's really beautiful here. Lots of beautiful vegetables and plants growing. Okay, so it doesn't look like there are any questions. Oh, how long does it take before you can start using compost in the garden? So it takes a few months to, based on the CSU Extension fact sheets, it looks like it takes 3 months to a few years to really get a good compost growing, but within the first few days you will see the compost pile start to heat up and you can really see the process start, but you have to wait a few months to really see good compost growing and building. And usually the reason for the gates at the bottom is so you can reach the compost at the bottom, because that's usually where the microorganisms are at when the compost is building. Okay, and it is 12:15, so I will end the live, and please leave any questions if you have any. Thank you so much for coming and watching. See you guys next week for mulching.